These are questions that were submitted tonight, just on these note cards that you guys all had the chance to look at. A few of them have been addressed, so I pulled out some of them. So the first one I wanted to ask is what extracurriculars are funded by the general fund and how much to each, which is a pretty detailed question.
Okay. I don't know if at this time I can give you for each, like football, golf. Can I give you that exact?
Right, and it was referenced in the performance audit. They talked about how much our overall extracurricular programming costs, and that would have everything to do from our coaches, our transportation, any fees that are associated with that. So the general fund subsidy at this point, if everything is wrapped in, approaches around $600 and some thousand per year. Again, a large portion of that would be our supplementals, because we have contracts because we need coaches to run these. And we are very fortunate that we have a lot of our staff members, teachers specifically, who are willing to put in the many evenings and nights for our young people to have that opportunity of their school experience just with extracurriculars. So it's around that $600 and some thousand. It was referenced exactly in the performance audit report.
Okay. And then follow up, will the extracurricular costs be reduced? I guess that would be programmatic, essentially.
Well, programmatically, we always have to have enough students to be able to run an opportunity. The other piece is some of it has a negotiated aspect to it if it's a supplemental position. And then if the board would like to entertain that for feedback in the community to put it, most of you have probably heard of a pay to participate financial scheme where the families would, in addition to school fees and all that, if they wanted to be in an extracurricular, would pay additional dollars on top of that. That can all be looked at, and those items would be approved by the board. Other communities have done that in the past, variety of dollar amounts, family amounts, things like that. But yes, the board could take that action if that's the feedback that folks thought was appropriate. And that could reduce the overall general fund subsidy to extracurriculars.
Right. Okay, so this next one we've kind of talked about, but where does the school board plan on making cuts to the budget, which they've done somewhat?
The biggest piece is that we had to submit to the board, and the board approved a financial recovery plan in the state of Ohio. And that detailed all of the cuts that changes to our programs that we wanted to implement in the next 5 years. So it's going through the state. We have not gotten our letter saying that the financial recovery plan has been approved by the state and then we can start implementing it. But we are moving forward that it is.
And it has items in there like reduction of teachers. So we want to make sure, again, your enrollment follows your teachers. Your teachers are not too many for your enrollment. You want to really track that carefully. So with reducing enrollment, you have to reduce some teachers as well. You saw things like utilities are like 3 or 4% of our budget. And we turn the lights off. We're working on that. But like the biggest thing is going to be salaries. So that's where we make the biggest savings would be to reduce. And but we're trying to do that while still maintaining quality programming. We'll look at things like the audit performance where they talk about, do we need to run 4 bus routes? We look at 3 bus routes. What kind of savings are in those?
Kind of a soup to nuts approach.
Yes.
So this was another fairly specific question. What were the non-regular costs referenced in the state report?
So we've asked about that as well. The non-regular labor costs in the performance report had to do things like non-regular overtime that maybe our custodial maintenance folks. We had, if you read the performance audit report, or if you'd like to read the performance audit report, it's linked again on our website, you'll see in my response letter that, well, they told the numbers, they didn't tell the stories behind the numbers, like what is our story personally. And unfortunately, we experienced one of our custodians passing away from COVID. We couldn't instantly replace that person because that was on people's minds. So we subbed out his job, and a lot of our custodians picked up non-regular hours, so we could kind of, as a school community, come together with replacing that individual, but also respecting the fact that he had left us during the pandemic, like cracking COVID and dying. So that was what produced that non-regular labor of about $40,000, if I recall correctly. But that's the story behind the story that's not going to be captured in that report. But that is that non-regular type of labor, and that was a unique thing. We don't see that happening in the future. We're trying to manage any type of overtime.
if this levy fails, how do you explain to parents of students in the community that they're not being punished for cutting bus services or instituting paid play?
I think we'd have to be careful on our side because we have to be very factual, and any plans in place have to be approved by the board. Your students are our main focus, so we'd want to try to impact them as least as possible, but we have to bounce the books. Like Sandy said, you cannot be running in the red. We do not want to shift further into state oversight for our finances. So we have had to make some difficult considerations. Back in time, they offered one language here, as understood. They offered French. We were currently offering 2 languages in the district, but we had to look for strategic things. We looked at the numbers of students enrolled in those languages. We looked at who were teaching those, the years of service in the organization, and it made sense at that point to go to 1 language. Now, so students would feel punished, they could either shift into French, they could take a college class to continue their Spanish instruction. We really tried to, as little as possible, negatively impact students, but we had to make some changes. So that's kind of an example of kind of the thinking process we went through in that example, that we would do that again. But no matter what, any recommendations we put forward to the board has to be approved by them before we would be able to take action.
And I'm not sure how many employees this would affect, but will the superintendent or any other 6-figure employees be offering to take some kind of salary reduction before becoming teachers?
Yeah, I mean, that was not an issue. I mean, if that is a desire of organization as a whole, like, I enjoy serving here. I love my job here. I want to be all in. You see me at events. I'm willing to entertain that. As long as everybody else kind of joins the fun of that experience, I would do that. And if it wasn't possible for me, I mean, I'm just being honest, I mean, I'm okay with that. I mean, if you look across Summit County, you're not paying your superintendents on money. I mean, yes, I do earn a 6-figure income, but if you look at other superintendents in the area, I'm still kind of trending behind. So I don't want to, it's not about me here, but if that is the desire of the board and they want to renegotiate my contract with me, I would entertain that conversation.
This might be questions we kind of covered, but which audit recommendations does the board plan to implement if the levy passes?
Well, again, those would be, the board,
It would have to, yeah.
it would have to be, the board would have to decide, but I think what we're looking at is, we're looking at as few reductions as possible, but still meeting financial recovery plan that the state is assisting everyone.
And we're okay with working with tight margins.
Right.
We're not trying to bank up a ton of extra money, but we do have to also be careful for having that rainy day fund, for lack of better word. We cannot run so narrow on cash to hand that, you know, a major bus repair, a hot water tank, like, we cannot have that be the thing that kind of sinks our ship. We have to be very careful on that.
So you have to have some money.
Yeah, we have to have some money. Yeah, we have to have some money back.
Right.
So last question, has the board come up, or the administration, I suppose, come up with any alternative ideas to cut costs that were not recommended in the state's report?
The state's report was pretty comprehensive. That audit report was pretty comprehensive. And then they also put some additional things in there that were quite surprising to us. But no, not at the moment, because we're just really working through that report that just came out this month.
And we're trying to find out where we can cut costs.
Yeah.
Without, again, impacting our students.
One of the biggest things that Sandy's made sure is like really being careful on any additional expenditures right now through till January. You know, under $500, it's a needed thing right now, we can probably make that work. But any large capital purchases, we're doing anything we can to hold off until January when we get that next foundation tax payment, yes. To try to increase our daily cash on hand.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we have for us?
That's the last of the questions I have. So
Thank you.
the rest of them were all kind of addressed throughout. So don't worry.
Thank you.